Alright guys, I am back again with another deck profile for Cardfight Vanguard Deer Days on Nintendo Switch. This time we got version 2 of my Brandt Gate Orfist Regis deck. So version 2, everything through the additional special set, so through a fraction of the booster set 11. However, this deck actually doesn't use any cards from that last DLC pack, so if you've only bought up through the second card pass, you still can play this deck. And this deck overall has basically just been sped up. You can get your world orders into your order zone much faster now, being able to do 5 attacks on turn 3 even without having access to Nuvarea. So you could already do 5 attacks that turn before, but now it's easier to do so. And of course the deck's overall draw power has seen a boost as well, so it's much easier to maintain your card advantage. So, as always, we'll be going through the deck, and then we'll show it off in one card fight for you to see it in action. So, starting first with the ride deck, we, of course, have our Grade 0 starter, Cardinal Fang FuRyu. So, when it's rode upon, if you win second, draw a card, same old starter skill. Next, for the Grade 1, we have Cardinal Noid Routus. So he has his auto ability. This is when this unit is placed on Vanguard Circle. You search your deck for up to 1 world card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. So very simple ability, but very helpful, helping you search out one of your world orders and getting it immediately into your hand. So a free +1 and getting you one of your vital combo pieces. And then he also has his continuous ability when he's on Rearguard Circle. That says during the battle this unit attacked or boosted. If your world is Dark Knight or Abyssal Dark Knight, this unit gets power plus 2,000. So he never really ends up on Rearguard Circle, so that second ability doesn't really ever come into play. Next for the Grade 2, we have Cardinal Noid Cubicia. So its auto ability says when a world is put into your order zone, you choose one of your units and it gets power plus 5,000 until end of turn. So again, very basic ability, just a slight power-up skill, which you should be playing a world order from turn 2 onwards every turn if you have one to play, and you'll always have at least one thanks to your ride deck to play on turn 2. So when you play that order, you'll just get an extra 5k to one of your units for that turn. And again, he has a continuous ability when he's on Rearguard Circle that says during your turn, if your world is Abyssal Dark Knight, this unit gets power plus 5,000. So once again, he doesn't really end up on Rearguard Circle, so another unused ability. So then lastly for the Grade 3, we have Cardinal Dominus Orfist Regis. So he has 2 auto abilities. First one says when this unit is placed on Vanguard Circle, you choose up to 1 world card from your hand or drop and put it into your order zone. So very nice ability, getting you another world order into play. Now it's much better, obviously, to get it from the drop than from your hand, because if you grab it from the drop, then it's a free +1. So you can safely discard a world order during your ride phase or whatever, and then you can just get it right back into play. This also lets you bypass the play cost of any of those world orders as well, so also helping you save on resources. So then he has a second auto ability that says when this unit attacks, if your world is Abyssal Dark Knight, you can counterblast 1 and discard a card from your hand, and for every 2 world cards in your order zone, you call up to 1 Shadow Army token to Rearguard Circle, and this unit gets power plus 5,000 until end of that battle. So as always, I'll throw up a quick screenshot of the Shadow Army tokens. They're just vanilla Grade 1 units with 15,000 power. So nothing real special, just some beat stick cards that you can easily flood your board with using the skills from this deck. So this ability does let you call out 1 Shadow Army token during your battle phase for every 2 world cards you have in play. So you should have at least 2 in play by turn 3. So that should let you get at least 1 extra attack during that turn. Now it's pretty easy at this point to get 3 or 4 into play by that turn. So if you can get 4, you can call 2 Shadow Army tokens out and get 5 attacks on turn 3. If you can only get 2 or 3 world orders into play by that point, and you can only call out 1 off of this ability, if you have Nuvarea out, you can still potentially get 5 attacks. But either way, this should be significantly upping your offense. And of course, this ability does snowball the longer the game goes on, since you should be getting more and more world orders into play during your later turns. So the more you can get in there, the more Shadow Army tokens you can call out. And since they are grade 1 units, you can call them to your front row and back row and potentially boost with them as well. So a very cool ability, helping you get more attacks in one turn. And also powering up your Vanguard by 5k for each Shadow Army token that you call out. So it gives a boost to your center column as well. And some of the new cards we've added to this deck can actually make this ability a lot more efficient, since we have a way to help make up for that discard cost now as well. So very, very cool Vanguard overall. So that is the ride deck. Moving on to the main deck. First off, for the grade 3s, we of course have our 3 additional copies of Orfist Regis for our Persona Ride purposes. SP, looking very nice. So next up, we have 3 copies of Cardinal Dragon Nuvarea. So this is the card I mentioned before, and he has 2 auto abilities. First one says when this unit attacks, this unit gets power plus 2,000 until end of that battle for each world in your order zone. So pretty basic power-up ability, though it can help him hit some much better numbers, especially if you attack with him unboosted. And then he has his second auto ability, which is his main skill, that says when this unit is retired from Rearguard Circle, if your world is Abyssal Dark Knight, you may call a Shadow Army token to Rearguard Circle. So the idea with this card is to call it to your front row, attack with it, then when you attack with Orfist Regis and you use his ability to superior call a Shadow Army token, you call one of those Shadow Armies over top of Nuvarea, so then Nuvarea will be retired, and that will trigger this ability, which will let you call another Shadow Army token. So you can then call it to your other front row Rearguard Circle, and still be able to get your 5 attacks in, even if you were only able to call 1 token off of Regis' skill. So, very nice ability. Of course, if you can call 2 or more tokens with Regis, you still can use this ability and just plop another Shadow Army token in the back row. So, one of those attacks will be boosted. So, either way, this is a very helpful ability, upping your offense, either in number of attacks or just in the power of those attacks. So overall, a fantastic card. I did drop him down from 4 to 3 since he's not as vital anymore to get those 5 attacks on turn 3. And space did get a little bit tight in this deck. But yeah, still a fantastic card. So next up, we have 3 copies of our first world set order, Overcoming an Eternity. So you can play it with a Soul Blast 2. But again, most of the time you can't bypass that cost if you can get it into your order zone from the drop using either Orfist Regis' skill or one of our new cards' skills. But then it has a continuous ability when it's in the order zone that says if your order zone only has world cards, the following effects are active according to the number of cards in your order zone. So if you have 1 card, your world becomes Dark Knight, and if you have 2 or more cards, your world becomes Abyssal Dark Knight. So all of the world orders share this exact continuous ability. All it does is change your world to either Dark Knight or Abyssal Dark Knight based on how many worlds are in your order zone. So this in and of itself is basically just a status for the player. It doesn't do anything on its own. But as you've seen already, a lot of our abilities require you to have your world either be Dark Knight or Abyssal Dark Knight. So this basically just turns on some of your other cards' abilities. And then it also has its auto skill when it's in the order zone that says when your Shadow Army token is placed, that placed unit gets power plus 5,000 until end of turn. So a very nice power-up ability giving you 5k to each of your Shadow Army tokens that you called that turn. So with just 1 copy of this in play, that will boost them up to 20k at least. So you can definitely hit some very big numbers. And of course, if you get multiple copies of this into the order zone, then each Shadow Army token that you call will get 5k for each copy of this card you have in play. So if you get all 3 into play, they can potentially gain 15k from that, on top of their natural 15k, bringing them up all the way to 30,000 power. So definitely a fantastic card that you want to get as many copies of as you can into play. And again, I would run it at 4 if I had a little bit more space, but yeah, we're just sticking to 3 copies for now. So then lastly for the grade 3s, we also have 1 copy of the Next World set order, In the Darkness Nobody Knows. So you can play it with a Soul Blast 1, and it has its auto ability that says when this card is put into the order zone, you choose one of your opponent's front row rear guards and retire it. And then once again it has that same continuous ability that turns your world to Dark Knight or Abyssal Dark Knight. So I did go ahead and pop in 1 copy of this card into the deck, mostly because it has a different name, and one of the new cards we put into this deck requires you to grab an order from your drop with a different name than the world orders you already have in play. So having the different name is very beneficial. As far as its own effect, it does just let you pick off one of your opponent's front row rear guards, so it is a -1 to your opponent. Not the most important skill in the world, but yeah, I am mostly just running it to have as many names as possible to make that other new card more consistent. So if you want to replace this with like a 4th copy of Overcoming in Eternity or whatever, you can go that route, but I kept this in at 1 to just have the different name. So that is all the grade 3s. Moving on to the grade 2s. First off, we have 3 copies of Cardinal Noid Grunder. So this is one of the new cards we've added to the deck, and it has 2 auto abilities. First one says when this unit is placed on rearguard circle from hand, if your world is Dark Knight or Abyssal Dark Knight, you may look at the top 7 cards of your deck, and if you do, choose up to 2 world cards from among the cards you looked, discard them, and shuffle your deck. And then its second auto ability says at the end of the battle, this unit attacked a Vanguard. If your world is Abyssal Dark Knight, you can retire this unit to choose a world card from your drop and put it into your hand. So these 2 abilities kind of work in tandem with each other. You can call this card to rearguard circle, and then you get to check the top 7 to put potentially up to 2 world cards you find there into your drop zone. So that helps filter your deck and set up your worlds in the drop. So you can use this card's second ability after you attack with it to just retire this card and add one of those world cards from drop back into your hand. So overall, this card just flows really well with the deck, since normally you'd be superior calling a Shadow Army token over top of it anyway. So by being able to remove itself off the board and replace it with a card in your hand, that does help you maintain that card advantage, instead of forcing you to superior call over top of one of your units. And of course it can get you another one of your worlds back into your hand for you to potentially play next turn. Or if you want to, you can just discard that world for Orfist Regis's cost, and then if you have a Persona Ride copy to go into next turn, you can put that world directly from drop into your order zone using that skill. So overall, just a very versatile card, helping you filter out your worlds from your deck and get them where you need them to be. So very, very nice card. So next up, we got 1 copy of Cardinal Draco Kuljamid. So he has 2 continuous abilities. First one says if your world is Dark Knight or Abyssal Dark Knight, this unit gets boost and can intercept from the back row. And then he also has a second continuous ability when he's on Guardian Circle that says if your world is Abyssal Dark Knight, this unit gets shield plus 10,000. So he can be a 10k booster on your board and a 15k shield, either from your hand or being able to intercept from your back row, or your front, but most of the time your front row is going to be full of Shadow Army tokens. So generally I like calling this card behind Orfist Regis and letting him boost the Vanguard, since that'll help that column hit magic numbers. And then you can still just intercept with him from the back row and let him be a 15k shield. So he can be a nice offensive and defensive card. Now he's not vital by any means, so if you want to take him out and replace him with something else you can, but I did decide to keep him in as a one of. So next we got 4 copies of Polarxus Dragon. So the other new card for this deck, and he has 2 auto abilities. First one says when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, if you have a Vanguard with Orfist in its card name, you can Soul Blast 1 and choose a world card with a different card name from the cards in your order zone from your drop, and put it into your order zone. So this is the ability I mentioned before that helps you get another world from your drop into play. Now it does have to have a different name than the names of the worlds you already have in play, which is why we're running as many different names as possible. So this ability becomes a little less useful later in the game when you might already have all the different names in play at that point. But this can be a way to get a 4th world order into play on turn 3. So even if you didn't draw into New Varaya, you still can potentially get your full 5 attack combo that turn. Or either way, it still can just be a way to help fill up that order zone faster to help Regis's skill snowball even sooner. So either way, a very helpful card. And again, it does help you bypass the play cost of whatever order you're putting into play. Now, this skill does have a Soul Blast 1 cost of its own, but, you know, that would still be less than like the Soul Blast 2 cost of Overcoming an Eternity or something. Or potentially, you know, having you save some Counterblast for some of the Counterblast costs. So, yeah, still a very helpful ability, no matter what. And then he also has a second auto skill that says when this card is put into drop from rearguard circle or hand during your battle phase, if your world is Dark Knight or Abyssal Dark Knight, you may draw a card. So an absolutely fantastic ability. Again, if you have him in your front row, just like New Varaya, and you have to Superior Call over top of him, you do get a draw to replace him, so again, having maintained that card advantage. Or if you discard him from your hand to pay for Orfist Regis's cost, again, you can draw to make up for that. So an excellent skill helping you make up for those minuses in either one of those situations. So overall, this is just an absolutely fantastic card that can help the deck in many, many ways. So yeah, a definite 4 of. So next we have 3 copies of our next world set order, Hallowing Moonlit Night. So you can play it with a Soul Blast 1, and it has its auto ability that says when this card is put into order zone, you draw a card. And again, like all the other worlds, it has that same continuous ability for Dark Knight and Abyssal Dark Knight. So a very simple effect, just letting you draw when you play into it. So this is usually the one I try to play on turn 2 to get that early card advantage. And of course, later on, if you just play it from your hand or get it into play from the drop using our various skills, it can just be another way to get more and more draw power. So simple skill, but very, very helpful. So then lastly for the grade 2s, we have 2 copies of our last world set order, Eclipsed Moonlight. So you can play it with a Counterblast 1, and it has its auto ability that says when this card is put into the order zone, you call a Shadow Army token to your rearguard circle. And then once again, that same continuous ability. So this one does have a Counterblast cost, but again, you can bypass that with the other skills, and it lets you Superior Call a Shadow Army token onto your board when you play into it. So that can get a token onto your board during the main phase, so it can help fill out that board if you don't have the cards in your hand in order to do so, and can, you know, be a good unit that you can put in either the front row or the back row. So it is a +1 overall to your board, assuming you have an empty circle. And of course, even if you have to call like a Shadow Army token over another token, it could potentially trigger Overcoming an Eternity's skill again to power up that token. So yeah, still a very helpful card. So that is all the grade 2s. Moving on to the grade 1s. First off, we have 2 copies of Cardinal Noid Thumbarino. So she has her auto ability that says when this unit boosts a Shadow Army token, you may have this unit get power plus 15,000 until end of turn. And if you do, at the end of that battle, retire all of your rearguards in the same column as this unit and draw a card. So this is still a pretty cool ability. With her boosting a Shadow Army token, it'll gain 15k on top of the 8k boost from her. So with the 15k base of your Shadow Army token, that will be a 38k column at least. And then you have to retire that entire column and draw a card. So if you do that before you attack with Regis, then that'll clear out that front row rearguard circle for you to call a new Shadow Army token. Or if you do it afterward, it just empties out part of your board, you know, in case you're playing against a control deck or whatever. So still a helpful card in helping you just cycle a unit off your board and replacing it with one in your hand. and of course having you hit some very big numbers as well. So pretty cool card. So next up we have one copy of Cardinal Principal Kagula. So it has its auto ability that says when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, if your world is Dark Knight, you may soul charge 1, and if it is Abyssal Dark Knight instead, you may soul charge 2. So just a helpful soul building ability, helping you build up that resource for the various soul blast costs in this deck, including this card's own activate ability that says if your world is Abyssal Dark Knight, you can soul blast 1 and retire this unit, and call a Shadow Army token to rearguard circle. So again, just replaces itself with a Shadow Army token on your board for the cost of 1 soul. So, can be pretty helpful. Of course, the Shadow Army token has more base power than this card. So getting a stronger unit onto the board to replace this card after it's already done its job can make your offense that much better. Which, I would actually like to run this card at more than just one copy, but again, I ran into some space problems. So yeah, I did just have to keep it as a one of. So the only other grade ones we have are our Sentinels. So first off, we have 3 copies of Violate Dragon, just your standard perfect card, as well as 1 copy of the Blitz Order Elementaria Sanctitude, which you can play without paying a cost if your opponent's Vanguard has triple drive. So that's all the grade 1s. Moving on to the grade 0s, we just have our trigger lineup, which I'm just running rainbow triggers. So we got 4 crits, 3 front, 4 draw, 4 heal, and 1 over. So starting first with the crit triggers, we have 4 copies of Cardinal Draco Barbazonde. So just the vanilla crit. If you want to run the effect crit, you can, but it's not really super necessary. Next for the fronts, we have 3 copies of Cardinal Draco and Pyro. So front with a skill, promotes Vanguard's grade 3 or greater, gets shield plus 5,000. So your 20k shield front trigger. Next for the draws, we got 4 copies of Ameliorate Connector. Again, draw the skill. If your opponent's Vanguard's grade 3 or greater, gets shield plus 5,000. So your 10k shield draw trigger. And then for the heals, we have 4 copies of Cardinal Prima Nabilim. So just the vanilla heal. Of course, if you want to run any effect heals, you can. And then lastly, the over trigger is of course Star Dragon Deity of Infinitude, Eldo Breath. So his additional effect lets you double the power and critical of all of your front row units until end of turn. So always an absolutely devastating trigger to check into, making your front row hit massive numbers and at least 2 crits on all those attacks. So very, very dangerous trigger. So that is the deck. So we will go ahead and have our one fight with it. And I think we'll fight Haruka this time. And we will be going first.
Stand up, Vanguard. Stand and
Alright, so we'll discard Overcoming an Eternity to ride. And Rotus' skill will let us search out a world from our deck, so we'll grab Howling Moonlit Night. And then just end our turn. And she only found 1 meteorite from the top of her deck. That she plays. And I'll let down with her. And we get a heal trigger that is wasted. Alright, so we'll discard Eclipse to Moonlight to ride. And then we can go ahead and play Howling Moonlit Night from our hand. So we'll Soul Blast 1.
ダークナイトになる。
And our world becomes Dark
スキル
Knight.
発動。
And our order skill lets us draw.
スキル発
And
動。
then Cubicia's skill
パワープラ
will give him an extra 5 hit. So then we'll just go ahead and
ス
attack.
ヴァンガードにアタック。ノーガード。ドライブチェックだよ。ダメージチェックね。ターンエンド。私のターン。ドロー。ライド。コール。セットオーダー。スキル発動。
And she plays another meteorite, but she did not Soul Blast to draw off her Vanguard skill. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this one through.
ノーガードだよ。ドライブチェックね。ダメージチェックだよ。ヴァンガードにアタック。
And I think I'll let that one through too, actually.
ノーガードだよ。まだまだこれからダメージチェックだよ。オーバートリガー。
Oh, and we pull our over trigger,
パワープラ
so that nullified that damage.
ス。ターンエンド。僕のターンだね。ドロー。
Alright, so we'll discard one of these Overcoming in Eternities
オルフィストにライド。
to ride Orfist Regis.
スキル発動。
And we'll use his skill to put one of those from the drop into our order zone.
この宇宙の深淵をアビサルダークナイト。
which makes our world Abyssal Dark Knight. So then we'll go ahead and call Polarxis Dragon and use his skill to Soul Blast one.
スキル発動。
And we'll add Eclipsed Moonlight from drop to order zone.
スキル発動。
And its skill will let us Superior call a Shadow Army token. So we'll put it over here.
エリオルコール。スキル発動。
And Overcoming in Eternity will give it an extra 5k. And unfortunately, we can't play the other world in our hand because we only have one soul. So we'll only be able to get 3 worlds into play this turn. But fortunately, we do have Nuvarea, so we'll go ahead and call him. And with that, we'll go ahead and attack with Nuvarea
ヴァンガ
first.
ードにアタック。スキル発動。
And his skill will give him an extra 6k since we have 3 worlds in play.
ガード。
And she guards. So then we'll attack with Polarxis Dragon, not boosted actually.
ヴァンガードにアタック。ノーガー
She lets that one through.
ド。ダメージチェックね。
So then we'll attack with Orfist Regis and use his ability to counterblast and discard 1. So we'll discard this Polarxis Dragon.
オルフィストレギスのスキル発動。
And now we can call 1 Shadow Army token, so we'll call it over top of
エリオ
Nuvarea
ルコール。パワープラス。
and give Regis 5k. And then Nuvarea's
スキル
skill
発動。
will let us call another Shadow Army token, and we'll call it over top of Polarxis
エリオル
Dragon.
コール。
So then the Polarxis that we
ス
discarded
キル発動。
will use its skill to let us draw. And the Polarxis we called over
スキル
top
発
of
動。
will also let us draw again.
スキル発動。
And then, thanks to Overcoming in Eternity, both our Shadow Army tokens that we called get 5k.
スキル発動。パワープラス。ノーガード。ドライブチェック
She
で。
let that one through
ク
too.
リティカルトリガー。
And we get a crit trigger. So, crit to the Vanguard and power to our left Shadow
クリ
Army.
ティカルプラス。パワープラス。ドライブチェックだよ。ヒールトリガー。
And we'll get a heal trigger that we do get, so we heal 1. And again, we'll give that power to our left Shadow Army.
パワープラス。 オルフィストでアタック。
やられた。ダメージチェックね。ドロートリガー。パワープレ
And
ス。
she gets a draw trigger.
ダメージチェックね。
So then we'll attack with our left Shadow Army.
ノーガード。
That's down through 2.
ダメージチェック。
So then we'll attack with our right Shadow Army.
ヴァンガードにアタックだ。
Oh, she had to perfect guard that.
完全ガードをするわ。
ターン。
私のターン。ドロ
So
ー。
we got her to 5 already.
トリンガーにライド。スキル発動。
But Nordlinger's skill lets her put 2 more meteorites into
ヴァ
her
ンガード
order
にア
zone.
タック。ネルトリンガーのスキル発動。
But she could not fill up her front row.
パワープラス。
So she only get 2 attacks, but she did send her 5 meteorites.
発動。
So her trigger effects will activate twice this turn.
発動。マインド。
And she will get to wipe out all of our rear guards.
マインド。
So I'm gonna go ahead and perfect guard that one just to be safe.
スキル発動。
And we'll discard Overcoming in Eternity.
完全ガード。
ドライブチェックね。ドライブチェックね。
And she got no triggers. Nice.
ターンエンド。
僕
And our last rear guard couldn't even hit us. So now we can Persona Ride.
ペルソナライド。スキル発動。
And Orfist Regis' skill will let us put a order from our drop into the order zone. So we'll go ahead and grab another Overcoming in Eternity. So then we'll call Grunder
コールだ。スキル発動。
and use her ability to check the top 7. And we did not find any orders. So we don't get to discard any, unfortunately. But we do have one in our hand, so we'll go ahead and play another Hallowing Moonlit Night. So a Soul Blast
セッ
one.
トオーダー。スキル発動。
And its skill will let us draw. And we drew Polarxus Dragon, so we'll go ahead and call him.
コール。
And let's see. The only order in our drop is Hallowing Moonlit Night and Overcoming in Eternity, and we have both of them in play. So we're not going to activate his skill. So with that, I think we're good to go. So we'll go ahead and attack with Grunder
ヴァン
first.
ガードにアタック。
And she guards and intercepts.
ガード。
And then we'll use Grunder's ability
スキル発動。
to retire her. And we'll grab Hallowing Moonlit Night from the drop. So then we'll attack with Polarxus Dragon.
ガード。
And she guards. So then we'll attack with
ヴァ
Orfist
ンガードにアタ
Regis
ックだ。
and use his ability to counterblast and discard 1. And let's see, we'll discard that draw.
シャドウアーミートークンをコール。
And now we can call 2 Shadow Army tokens. So we'll call 1 over Polarxus and 1 over here.
スペリオルコール。パワープラス。
And Regis gains 10k.
スキル
And once
発動。
again, Polarxus Dragon will let us draw.
スキル発動。
And both our Shadow Army tokens gain 10k since we have 2 copies of Overcoming in
スキル
Eternity.
発動。パワープラス。スキル発動。パワープラス。スキル発動。パワープラス。
And she perfect guards.
完全ガード
ドライブチェッ
But
ク
she's only got 2 cards left in her hand, and we got 2 more attacks.
ドライブチェックヒールトリガー
And we get a heal trigger, which we absolutely do not get. But we'll give the power to our right Shadow
パワ
Army.
ープラス
So then we'll attack with the right Shadow Army for 45,000.
ノーガード
And she's got to let it through.
ダメージチェックヒールトリガー
Oh, but she gets a miracle heal.
パワープラス
So she survived, but we got 1 more attack. So we'll attack with our left Shadow Army.
ヴァンガードにアタック
ノーガード
And she's got to let it through again.
ダメージチェックオーバートリガー
Oh, and she pulled a miracle over.
パワープラス
Come on.
ターンエン
私のターンですね
So somehow she survived that.
ペルソナライドスキル
And she got her Persona ride,
スキル
which
発
gets
動
her 2 more meteorites from her deck.
コールヴァンガードにアタックネルトリンガーのスキル発動
She can only send 3 meteorites to the drop this time, so she won't get the double trigger effects.
マインドスキル
She
発
will
動
get to retire our rear guards, though. So that's 2 crits, but I'm only at 1 damage, so I think I'm going to let that one through.
ノーガードだよ
ドライブチェックねドロートリガーパワー
Gets a
プラス
draw trigger.
ドライブチェックねクリティカルトリガー
And a crit trigger on top of that.
パワープラス
This is going to put us to 4.
まだまだこれからダメージチェックだよダメージチェックだよダメージチェックだよクリティカルトリガー
But we get a crit trigger.
クリティカルプラスパワープラス
ヴァンガードにアタックするわ
So let's see. We'll guard that with a crit and a draw.
ガードだ
And that'll be just enough.
ターンエンド
スタンド&ドロー
Alright, so now we can Persona Ride once again.
ペルソナライド
And Orfist Regis' skill lets us put yet another world order. So we'll grab that last Overcoming in Eternity from the drop. So let's see. We'll go ahead and play Hallowing Moonlit Night. So we'll Soul Blast one.
セットオーダースキル発動
And we'll draw. So then we'll call Grunder.
コール
And we'll use her skill, which will probably whiff again, because we don't have many orders left. And yes, it did. We found no world orders. But we do have Kagula, so we'll call
コール
it and use its ability
スキル発動
and Soul Charge Suit. And then use Kagula's Activate ability to Soul Blast
スキル発動
and retire it. And we can call a Shadow Army token, and I'll put it over here.
スペリオルコールスキル
And we have all 3 copies of Overcoming in Eternity set up, so it's going to gain an extra 15,000 power.
パワープラススキル発動パワープラス
Alright, so now we can attack with Grunder
ヴァ
first.
ンガードにアタック
ガード
So we'll use Grunder's ability once again.
スキル発動
And yeah, we actually didn't have any world orders in the drop to grab, but we'd had to call over top of her anyway, so it doesn't matter. So then we'll attack with our Shadow Army token for 40,000. And she guards again. So we'll attack with Orfist Regis. And his ability lets us counterblast and discard, and we'll drop that heal. And we've got 7 world orders in play, so we can call 3 Shadow Army tokens. So we'll put 2 in the front row and 1 in the back. And Regis gains 15k. And now all 3 of our Shadow Army tokens will gain 15k as well. Once we get through resolving these 20,000 abilities that just went off. So all this should get her, considering what numbers are going to be hitting here, and she only has 4 cards in her hand. That right column's going to hit 70k. Oh, and she perfect guards. We get a heal trigger, which we don't get, but we'll give the power to our left Shadow Army. We got it up to 50. And a crit on top of that, so we'll give that to our right Shadow Army. So I don't think she's going to miracle heal her way out of this one, so we're going to attack with our right Shadow Army token for a whopping 80,002 crit. And she's got to let it through. And we finally got her with that one. So there you go. That was version 2 of my Orfist Regis deck. Pretty fun deck to play, especially when you get all your combo pieces set up and you can hit some crazy big numbers like that. So anyway, I'll be back soon with more deck profiles. Next up, I'll be doing version 2 of my Hexa Orb deck. So until then, I guess that's all for this video. So lots of luck to you and yours.